Hey everyone, welcome to BarnBridge project call 29. We're going to jump right in today with the dev updates. I'm going to hand it over to Milad to run through a few items on his side. Go ahead, Milad.
Hey guys, hey everyone. Okay, so we released Smart Alpha as everyone saw, and we've been working on the next products and ideas to build, and one of them is a fixed income product inspired by what Michael Saylor did a few months back, where he offered 6.5% fixed rate for 7 years, and the money was used to buy Bitcoin and just hold the Bitcoin for 7 years. So this fixes one of the fixed income market problems right now, because it's much lower than the inflation rate, and many bonds are actually losing money. So this is a way to use Bitcoin, which has about 200% compounded average growth rate over the past 10 years. And even if that is cut in a quarter, like even 50% is enough to offer a fixed rate high enough for senior users, senior meaning junior and seniors, to join this pool. This build will probably use wrapped Bitcoin or RenBTC, depending on, probably wrapped Bitcoin is a better one. It allows long positions with a low leverage to enter as a junior, and that collateral can cover a fixed rate for people entering with USDC or USDT. Will buy Bitcoin or another good performing asset, but usually Bitcoin is a good bet here. The maturity date should be something long enough to cover the volatility of the asset. And at the end of the maturity date, the seniors get the guaranteed income offered by the juniors from the beginning, and the remaining assets goes to the juniors. So if Bitcoin has performed well over those years, juniors actually make more of the underlying, and seniors should be happy because they're guaranteed anyways. So this is the first product. Anyone has any questions, Nicole? I mean, we've talked about this internally, but maybe I forgot something.
So the wrap Bitcoin is going to be on Ethereum?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we can launch on other chains as well, right? But it should be somewhere that there's enough liquidity for the pool to be able to swap in and out of the underlying and USDC in case of downturns. So yeah, Ethereum has a lot of wrapped Bitcoin for sure. I don't know how much wrapped Bitcoin is on Polygon and other layer 2s though. So, but for something like this, it doesn't really need many transactions during its lifetime. So the main chain is okay, Ethereum main chain. And yeah, what it can offer is high fixed rates, competitive or even above their true monetary inflation rate. Like Michael Saylor offered something like 5 or 6 times the normal 10-year bond yield for a 7-year bond, basically, which is huge. It was very oversubscribed for that offer. So it's kind of market tested, the idea. The second.
Hold on, Milad, one quick thing, sorry. Could you speak to just high level timeline or where you're at in the process of kind of development?
Yeah, so we've been speaking this technical specifications have been ongoing for I think almost 3 weeks now, and those are going pretty well. From our past experience and how much effort Smart Yield and Smart Alpha took, this is very similar to Smart Alpha and some of the Smart Yield stuff. So I think it's comparable to those. So I think in 5 months we can launch. So another 2 months of smart contract development, then backend. We need to then build the front end, connect the two. In the meantime, the audits will be ongoing. Then we have to go back and forth with the auditors, do any modifications that come up, any security issues, and then more testing internally, and then we can launch. So yeah, somewhere around 5 months. So let's say March launch, something like that. But the technical spec usually takes, we take care of most of the, like 90% of the edge cases in the technical specification. And that's what we're doing right now. After the technical spec is done, the coding itself doesn't take that much time, the smart contracts. But the backend and front end are actually longer than people think. Usually they take longer. They take many iterations too. Yeah.
So basically, just to clarify for everyone, like part of the smart contract development, because Malad explained this to me, and I like, just to be clear, the part of the smart contract development is actually the speccing it out in the architecture. Like, it takes a long time to actually architect these contracts and go through all of the edge cases and all of the various ways that they could potentially break. The actual coding of the smart contracts doesn't take as long. It's basically the equivalent of I don't know, I don't have a good reference, like building a bridge, right? The actual architecture and going through all the math of where the breakpoints are at the bridge are very different than actually build, like the actual like building of the bridge, right? So that, along with the back end and front end, is what we're talking about here. And the only reason I bring that up is because, Malad, you were saying that it would take months, and then the actual writing of it could take 2 or 3 weeks. That's because it's not just the writing of the contracts, it's the auditing of them, it's the architecture, it's thinking through all the edge cases. That's what he's saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. You want me to go over the second product, Christian?
It'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. So the second product we're working on, and we're starting to spec it out. We're going. I think this is the third iteration of mechanism that we're going over, and it's getting better and better. Is Smart Yield V2. So what we want to solve for Smart Yield is the liquidity of the senior positions and the incentives of senior positions to come in. And the current thinking is that if we allow the first seniors a higher fixed rate guaranteed by the power, the yield generated by the juniors, so the yield power of juniors, there would be a very similar to how our pool 2 or pool 1 of yield farmings work. So the first ones coming in would get a higher fixed rate. So there's like a higher incentive to get in until there's an equilibrium in the market. So it's a market-driven process, basically. But not everyone gets the same rate. The sooner we come, the more you can use the yield power of juniors and come in. And the second thing is the liquidity of the senior positions. And we want to allow the senior tokens and the senior token holders. First, we want to try to make them ERC20 instead of NFTs. And second, we want to allow them to exit whenever they want by forfeiting some of the yield or all of the yield that they've had until that point. But this allows them to have the flexibility to get liquidity for their senior tokens. I don't have a good timeline for that, so we'll probably have a better spec in our next community call. But we're working on it, and it's looking pretty good. The last iteration that we have. Any questions?
I mean, most of the development for those is going to happen in parallel, but there are some shared resources between the two. So this one is probably going to come after the first one, the Mirror went over the first product.
Yeah, probably soon after. A few shared resources, but the lead technical developers are different people, different teams, but they share some of the resources, like myself and Bogdan, for sure. And yeah, for Smart Yield, we would like the community to give us some feedback based on the current Smart Yield, some wish list, some problems that they saw.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, I think it's probably a good segue to just chat through the proposal, which includes some feedback we've received to date. I think it went live or went up on forum the other day. You mind sharing any reactions you have or initial thoughts based on that list?
There is Mike posted in the forum. Christian,
Yes.
is that the one?
Yep.
Yeah, we like all of those. And we've looked over them, and it's mostly UX stuff, stuff that we need to change on the front end. And I think there were 10 of them. I think 9 out of those 10 are things we also wanted to include. So we're gonna work on those for the next UI update.
Yeah, so great feedback.
Cool. Yeah, I wonder if there's a way we can start to implement more of a kind of a recurring conversation. I think that forum post was fantastic. We'll definitely encourage more of that, but maybe there's a way we can even have more of a dialogue. Before we shift to operations, or any other questions on or comments on that forum proposal, guys?
The only thing that I'll say is, as we're working on like a Smart Yield V2 in conjunction with the Sailor inspired product, the forum post mentioned that there's like a working group. And the guy who posted it, I like reached out to him, and he said that they had other requests, like, because the guy who posted it, it's like extremely active in our community from like very early on. Like, he's one of the sirs that was there day one. And so I think that there's other like higher level requests. What it looked like to me when I was looking at it is 9 out of 10, like, sorry, I have people at my house working, so my dogs are going nuts. 9 out of 10 of them looked like they were interface level requests that wouldn't require any like smart contract changes. One of them was more complicated. So if there is like a consolidation of feedback from a working group that kind of self-organized in the community to give feedback, then having having like aggregated feedback on some of the harder requests and like the whys around them, I think would be helpful for everyone. So that's probably something that we could work with the community on in conjunction with just like interface level requests.
Yeah,
I do
also
want to add that for the UX.
interface level requests are also amazing. So yeah, keep them coming. Sorry.
Yeah. No, on the interface stuff, like the whole like repo is like open source. So if people feel like they want to make the change, they can just like open here. And I think no one is not going to be happy to get a review and do that. And
Dragos is on a plane, so his communication's difficult.
I just got my notes here a little bit, but I'm not sure if I came in through correctly. What I want to say is that if anything like interface UI level, the front end repo is there, and if anyone from the community wants to open a PR, it would be more than highly appreciated.
Yeah, I think I got that. Dragos was saying that the UI is open source, and we would even appreciate PRs opened by someone that just wants to make a modification and propose a modification that way. But no, feedback, written feedback is greatly appreciated as well.
Okay. Cool, guys. Let's shift to the operations updates. I think they'll be pretty quick this week, and then we can spend some time at the end. There was a number of questions that Mike submitted as well. We can hit. So for the operations side, just upfront, we're continuing to work with the layer 2 teams we've deployed Smart Alpha on. I think we're thinking through some things around potential incentives, other co-marketing activities. That is in conjunction with looking at other pools to add. We're open to recommendations, obviously, as well. So that remains active and a priority for us while we build out these next products on the roadmap. Let me pass it over to Pavlo for some other updates around marketing and what he's working on.
Sure. Hello, everybody. So there is an update on the media side with this Messiah report about Smart Alpha. It gives an overview of Smart Alpha and also goes through some interesting scenarios with different simulations and that are showcasing some interesting cases for different price performances in different conditions, like the pool ratios and so on. So for those seeking Smarter Alpha who haven't checked it yet, please do. It's a good read. Our first Smart Alpha promo campaign on Brave has just ended. So we are going to assess the results and kind of like the analytics that we've gotten. But we have got some uptick in the Smart Alpha YouTube video views, and we'll be looking to explore more opportunities and options around different paid marketing opportunities. And for those of you who are following the Dow Dispatch newsletter, we will be continuing working with them. So for the next months, you will still be seeing that BarnBridge is featured in their newsletter editions. And the last point that I'd like to touch on would be around this whole cream situation that happened yesterday. We've been trying to stay in touch with the community and people who lost funds. So actually, first thing is we have reached out to the to the insurance, to the teams who are working in insurance projects in DeFi. And so if you got your funds, if you got any losses and you basically bought any coverage on Nexus Mutual or Bridge Mutual, please reach out to us. It's likely that you can get some claim on those funds. And the second thing would be, there was a community initiative that Tyler picked up, and I think we'll be spinning out. And I think, like, Tyler, do you want to touch on that a bit more?
Yeah, I think like if you look at what happened when Alchemix was hacked with their AL ETH, the community banded together and was able to actually raise most of the money from the hack back. I think actually even more. We weren't hacked in this scenario. It wasn't anything on our end that was a vulnerability. I think everyone following the space knew that Cream has had vulnerabilities in the past. It also, just to be clear to everyone, it wasn't like a hack in the first place. It was an economic exploit. Troy made a point that it's really not that different than what George Soros did to the British pound. It happens all the time in financial markets. They basically were able to use a flash loan to manipulate YUSD. And that's something that I think the entire community needs to be aware of in terms of, one, kind of how things are essentially reimbursed going forward. Like, I don't know how the insurance protocols handle these types of things, like economic exploits versus like code level exploits. This wasn't like a smart contract bug. It basically had to do with low levels of liquidity and manipulating markets. If anything, an oracle was manipulated, but it's because the price was manipulatable. And it's something we really need to take into account as we ask to list more and more smart yield markets, when we're looking at more and more assets to be added to smart alpha. Like I saw recently, someone was saying like add SHIB and Doge. I mean, those actually have pretty deep liquidity, right? But I mean, people are manipulating those. So like, we just need to be aware that this is finance. One of the ways that people make money in finance is off of arbitrage, which is, it's supposed to be just finding price discrepancies between some assets, but naturally some people create price discrepancies between assets, which is why Troy made the point about George Soros. So yeah, basically, I just want to be clear that we're not doing this because we think that there's like things at the BarnBridge level that went wrong. It's just ultimately most of this stuff happened off of our platform. But unfortunately, you know, there's users that lost substantial sums of their net worth. And so it was more just me saying, I think we could put something in the interface that we can collect funds. And I think people can trust that, you know, I can collect funds in a multi-sig. I'm not going to do anything nefarious with them. If other people on this call or people that are like well-known in the community want to be on that multi-sig. And then I think this isn't like a DAO decision that we need to do a vote on. I think that once we see how much like funds we can collect over a period of time, then we can just do some type of soft governance and honor whatever like a snapshot vote shows, right? Like how I mean, we can do it through the forum and in a snapshot. I don't think this needs to go through the DAO. I think we can just kind of honor what the community wants in that respect. But like Sir Gunner, like in particular, he lost a substantial amount of his net worth. And I mean, he was just trying to help BarnBridge and keep his money in the thing. I think part of it is we also need to look at, you know, how much bond rewards are going out to those senior and junior positions that lost on Cream. Because that will help like subsidize some of it. It's one of the reasons they were in place in the first place, is because people are beta testers of all of these DeFi protocols. So essentially subsidizing people for the risk that they're taking is one of the purposes of incentives, even though I understand, what everybody's saying about DeFi 1 versus DeFi 2, but DeFi 1, the reason those incentives were in place was to incentivize people to take risks that they probably wouldn't have otherwise, right? It's probably not sustainable long-term for the industry, but that's why they were there. So I think where we go from here is I'll work with Pablo as long as, nobody on this call has like major pushback to it. I don't think it needs to go on the app. It can just go on the website somewhere and have, something that deposits into a Gnosis safe. We'll figure out who the signers are. We'll market it with everybody. I'll donate to it. And then we figure out, how much money is left in it at the end of all of it. And yeah, I think we can use soft governance and just assume that the people on the Gnosis safe will honor the decisions of soft governance. Or if someone's going to be on the Gnosis safe, they should be willing to do that, unless they're asking us to do something illegal, in which case we're going to send the money to the DAO. But yeah, ultimately, I think that's kind of what we need to do. And it has nothing to do with, when we're talking about it externally, I just don't want, the one blowback could be that people could think that BarnBridge got hacked or were implicated in it, and we ultimately weren't. So I don't want to blame the community members that lost money, but I also don't want us to get put in a scenario that it makes BarnBridge look bad. So this is also just, sorry, I have a lot of noise going on in my house. It's just it's an empathy thing. Like if people in the community don't feel bad that members of the community lost substantial sums of their net worth, then I don't know what to tell you, but I don't share that. I feel bad for them, and I want to help them. So I think we should all help them together.
Yes, Christian, I think that covers it on the operations side. So
Cool.
back to you.
Thanks, guys. Related to Cream, I posted a couple questions that Mike had shared in GitHub. Some of which you touched upon, Tyler, but maybe we run through these 3 questions on this call.
I don't want to answer one because I don't actually know all the details of that. I know Trevor and Mala were talking about it before this call, but I know that one of the questions Mike had in Discord yesterday was if we should remove Cream from the interface. And I think that the answer to one kind of affects that. I mean,
we've paused deposits through the guard multisig. So
We've paused deposits, but I think we should leave it in the UI because if liquidity recovers, people should be able to withdraw. And it's easiest to do this through our app.
but if we pause deposits, yeah,
withdrawals can work if there's money in Cream, which
it's
probably
only open if we open it, but then what if they get hacked again? Then
no, just deposits are paused. Withdrawals can work if there's money in Cream, but
I understand. Okay, I understand now. So what
We
happens
also
if Cream goes whole?
prevent-
Like what if Cream's made whole and in 6 months everything seems like it's good again? I mean,
no, I think the answer to that is we don't add any more Cream markets for now, at least. And whatever we have now is paused. No one can deposit.
okay, so basically, I think that answers kind of all 3 questions then, right? Like the too long didn't read is that, just so everyone listening knows, the community questions were, can you cover the Cream exploit and what it means for smart yield depositors in that market? What are the team's thoughts on closing this market permanently? I think you can assume that it's closed permanently unless there's a vote to open it back up, which we ultimately can't prevent people from redeploying pools. I think we probably don't want it on the barnbridge.com interface at this point, which is different than a DAO vote. I think that if Cream recovers from this, then it will fix the liquidity of the pools. The second question is thoughts on adding new smart yield markets with Cream more or less dead. Ideally, fiat has diversified collateral options, and having those markets live at launch would be ideal. I'm sorry for the noise at my house. So I've heard some of these whispers in the community about like DYDX as well as YFI. I think that this actually goes back to what I said earlier, that it sounds like some of the smart yield V2 requests were around interface level requests. I think that if we have like a consolidated list of ads that we think are safe, I mean, YFI, the base YFI V1 hasn't been hacked since the original V1 hack, which was at this point almost over a year ago. DYDX has been growing pretty rapidly. I think that we would need to have community discussions on what we think drives the most impact in terms of adding new ones. Cream being dead, I'm not in their community. They can all figure that out. But I don't think we should add it to our interface at this point. I mean, people lost a lot of money in our community. We have community feedback, community testing UX group with known users. Could be non-functioning screenshots or Figma prototypes. I don't actually know what this question's asking, but the answer is like, yes, if the community self-organizes and wants to work with us on things, I think that everyone is open to that. And so, yeah, the answer is yes, we would love to have community feedback and beta testing groups. We can also even potentially figure out how they're compensated, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's not just our decision on the call. I think that everyone would want to see more people building on the protocol. So 3 is yes. And I think that covers that. I just was trying to get through it one by one while this noise is going on.
And just to wrap up with the Cream topic, apart from the contract deposit withdrawals that were made on the Cream Smart Yield market, the deposit functionality in the UI will be shut down too next week. So just to set expectations to the community.
Awesome. Thanks for running through those, Tyler, and thanks, Pablo. Any other, I don't see other questions in the GitHub. Any other comments or thoughts before we close out for today?
I just really want to reiterate that Bogdan and Malad have said that I agree with them that 9 of those 10 requests are low-hanging fruit. If a lot of these questions that came up had to do with Cream, if people have questions, ask them in the Discord. I'll be active in there. But then also the stuff about the community feedback, I think the fact that the community is starting to self-organize into groups, I'd say that we encourage that. And the feedback that is more difficult, especially as we're speccing things out, like some things are technically impossible, like technologically impossible. So I can't promise that we'll do everything, but like we take that into account and care. So like right now, while things are getting specced out, it would help if the more feedback that we have that's in an organized format, the better.
The other note, I think, just on that third question, I think we'll have to think on the best way to do this, just around pulling in actual users from the community and having them run through some UI options. I think that's a really, really great idea, and we'll have to note that as a follow-up item to kind of see what the best process for that is.
We should also talk to Mark about, I mean, at XYZ, I think like there were like 200 beta testers or something from the community that helped actually test the products before we released. And I admittedly wasn't really a part of that. It kind of self-organized, and I don't know what that process was like, but we're obviously close to the universe community. I think we have like a primer on how we can do that. And there's also like examples like in other communities, like Olympus is really interactive with their community, Rari is. And so looking at some of the ways those things are happening, I think is helpful. But yeah, I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. I think there's ways that we can work with people that are pretty low hanging fruit, and then it grows from there.
Cool, guys. All right, I think that's pretty good for today, unless there's no other comments or questions. Definitely have a few next steps we can take offline.
Thanks, everyone.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.